Hello. Thanks for stopping back by Whispers from the Dark. Grab your favorite beverage, and kick back and help me celebrate the women that were in my family for the past 150 years. Hope you enjoy. This is my grandma Dorothy. Dorothy Ingram was her maiden name. Looks like we have a Choctaw Indian in our family. I'd always heard rumors we had Comanche, but now we've got Choctaw and another tribe, and I can't remember which one yet. Now this lady here with the corn, to my knowledge, she's not a relative. I just saw this and I thought, this is the embodiment of our ancestors that worked hard in the fields. Now this here is Doris. She was my grandfather's sister. If I remember correctly, she lived to be over 100. 101, 102, because I went with my dad to her birthday party. This is Mrs. Young. She married Colonel William Cock Young, that Young County was named after. He was U.S. Marshal and the first sheriff for Red River County. This is Grace Crane, school teacher in East Texas, around the Sulphur Spring, Gilmer area. And she's one of my grandmother's cousins, I believe. This is Dorothy Ingram. Married my grandfather about 1930 and raised my dad. This is Mary Crane, my grandmother's sister. Obviously her graduation photo. This is Emma and Mary Crane. Different Mary Crane. And these women are something else, aren't they? Looks like something would get dressed up in for a costume and take pictures, but I guess that's what they normally wore back then. Bless their hearts. I'd give anything to have a magic time machine and go back and meet some of these people. Wouldn't want to follow in their footsteps or live their life, though. And this is one of my grandmothers. Maybe Grandma Monroe. I'm not sure. No, Grandma Gallion. Okay, Grandma Gallion. Some of our grandmothers have big families. They live in or near their extended families. Most of them they didn't have an easy life. They didn't have electric power, no running water in their homes. They used an outhouse. And their families that they grew up with were sometimes across the country. They went with their husbands west or south to find a better home and to make their way. And they were out there in the middle of the prairie, dealing with life, with Indian attacks, with snakes, with medical issues, losing their kids, losing their families, all out there by themselves. They grew and made what they needed. They couldn't go to the store like we do. They were tough as nails, but they survived, or we wouldn't be here today. My hat goes off to them. Bless their hearts. I believe this is the Crane family, circa 1900, but I'm not sure. They were sharecroppers, and they worked hard, and as you could tell, that was their Sunday best. That was the best clothes they had. Bless their hearts. I look at these pictures and I think, wouldn't mind going back to the 1800s to see how things were, but I wouldn't want to stay there. I would not want to stay there. But these are some of the big families. Everybody had 9, 11 kids, sometimes several wives, because they would die in childbirth or from illness or disease, and they'd have another wife and a bunch of kids from them, and then sometimes a third wife after their other ones died, and they'd have kids with them. So it was not uncommon for men to have had 2 or 3 wives and 20 kids, or women to have had 2 or 3 husbands and that many kids. And this photo was 1900, or give or take. Might have been late 1800s, but look at that coffin. I don't know what that's about, but I would love to know the story. But this is definitely my family. I have the original photo. I have the original on this as well. The little lady at the very bottom is my great grandmother, I believe. And if you look at the men behind her, the one on the far left was John Crane, Dallas police officer that was killed in the line of duty back in the 1920s. And along that same line of men behind her on the far right, I believe is my great-grandfather. But that's the Cranes. Circa 1910s, 15, something like that. And this is the Pettit family, also my family. I believe on my mom's side. Again, they had a hard life. They lived hard, they worked hard. And they literally had to grow everything they ate. They had to make everything they had. And they had to make do with what they got. They couldn't go to the store, Walmart, Winco, Kroger, Albertsons, and pick up what they wanted. They either grew it or traded for it with what they could grow. Or it didn't happen. This next family is the W.S. Corner family, my dad's side. The little boy at the very right bottom in the corner is my grandfather. He was born 1904, I believe. So he looks like he's about 3 or 4 there. So this is, 1910 maybe, or close. And that is my great grandmother. I visited their gravesite in Denison. He worked for the railroad. Don't remember what he did, but I remember his obit said he worked for the railroad. Okay, this is another large family. This is my mother's family. Mom is the youngest at the very bottom in the center. Her mother is in the middle row to the right. And she looks so sweet in that picture. She had a hard life as well. They were sharecroppers when she was young. And then her husband, which was my grandfather, which I never got to know, was a night watchman at the cotton compress in Memphis, Texas. Basically, same thing I do, night security. Isn't that a trip? He also was a civilian, a radio operator, which, since I'm a ham operator, we have that in common. But he died many years before I was born. Never knew him. Now, this picture, to my knowledge, is not a relative of mine. But I just thought this was cool. Bless her heart. She got her yard birds. She's feeding them. I know she enjoys the chickens, and then, of course, fresh chicken for supper. But that's what the women did back then. They checked on their flocks and got their eggs. Now, this is my grandmother. I don't know who she's holding. I have no idea. But it's my grandmother on the left, and it's her mother on the right. And she's holding one of my cousins. They love their grandbabies and great-grandbabies. She was the best grandma ever. Little old bitty thing, 4'11", shrank down to 4'9" in her later years, and she refused to accept that. She said something must be wrong, or could be the hot baths I'm taking. I kid you not. She would chase a rattlesnake across the yard to stomp it with her bare hands. She was tough as nails. Was a roadside saddle across the country in West Texas to deliver babies. And this is her family. Again, my great-great-grandmother, great-great-great-grandmother, great-great-great-grandmother, Mary Young on the right, and that's her daughter, Lily, on the left. She was born a Crane. She's born a Crane and married into the Young family. That family is something else, man. The more I research and dig, and the more I find out about them, they're just incredible. They really were. Okay, this is my grandmother's on my mom's side over the past 100+ years. My mom, my grandma, her mother, her mother, her mother, her mother, and Mary Smith is as far back as I can go so far with my records on the MyHeritage website. and that is mid-1700s. I mean, I have it back to the Crane brothers in 1700 that came from Wales, but on the grandmothers, this is as far back as I've gotten. And they had some tough lives. If you look at those years that they were alive, my God, I cannot even imagine what they went through. Some of them were dirt poor, had dirt floors, of course all had outhouses. You could see the light come through the boards on the walls. You know, they worked from sun up to sundown, and they had babies, lots of them. Okay, this is my dad's side of the family. This is my great-great-grandmother on the left. That's W.S. Corner up there at the top. That's his mother, and her mother, Nell's mother, is Sarah Minshew Hansen. Again, my grandfather, lower right-hand corner. Nell is such a pretty lady. So dignified looking. Kind of a quiet, dignified look. I keep thinking there's something hidden in there, that she's got something going on. I don't know what it is, but I admire her and I don't even know her. Okay, this is Mildred Corner. This is obviously 1920s. She's just a pretty girl. And this is my grandmother, Maggie Ozella Crane, which later became Wright. And I think it was right after this photo was taken she got married. So probably 1920s. This is Mattie Crane. She married John Glenn Crane, which was my grandma's cousin. Mattie was such a fireball, such a sweet little old lady. I loved her dearly. Oh my God, she was incredible. And this is Mary Crane, my grandmother's sister. Look at those glasses. Man. I have pictures of her all the way from when she was a little girl. And she is something else. Okay. Now these ladies here, I had their names written down and now I can't find them. They're obviously, it's written on the picture because I believe they're family. I just don't remember which family. Moms or dads. Now this here are the Salmon girls. Several generations it looks like. This is my boyfriend's family. So these are not my blood relatives. But, you know, they were all mothers and grandmothers. Okay, this is my family. My mother is on the right, far right, and then her two sisters. And this was taken probably 1952, 54 in Memphis, Texas. Now, these are the Corner family and Ingrams, probably circa 1940. Okay, have you noticed almost all the old photos with women? They look tired, they look heartbroken, and they're not smiling. If you think about the kind of lives they lived back then, you understand why. You know, they'd lose 1 out of 3 kids. There wasn't medical help like is for us now. Their families were oftentimes across the country. They had little or no help. They buried their kids. They buried, some of them, their entire families from consumption or whatever virus that was going on at the time. It's almost like they look in their eyes is like they're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. In other words, waiting for the next disaster. I think about them and how awful of a life they had. There's very few pictures you'll find of them smiling. There's a few I have in here of the ladies smiling from back in the day, but very few. Most of them you won't see. But you'll see the look on their face, the hardships, the pain. It plainly shows on their faces. Now I'm about to show you. Look into their eyes. Imagine what they went through. And they thought that's what women did. They just had to be tough and persevere and have babies and take care of the house and feed everybody, and that was their job. And it was hard. This lady here is from the Isle of Man. These 4 ladies just got back from a funeral. Somebody had died. That's their funeral attire. Bless their hearts. And then Grandma Lita. I can't remember. I want to say she's on my mom's side, but I can't remember. Look at her eyes. You can almost feel the pain. Mahalia, bless your heart. This lady here is not a member of my blood family. She's another Solomon family member on my boyfriend's family side. And this is one of my great-grandmothers. Which one I can't remember. But I believe on my mom's side. This was Margaret Ann Duty Young. Isn't she dignified looking? I believe she was one of the wives of Colonel William Cock Young. And then this one was the wife of Henry Riddell, which is my great-great-great-grandfather on my dad's side. I don't remember who this lady is. I really like the picture. Again, Nettie, my great-grandmother, dad's side. My grandfather's mother. Look in her eyes. Okay, this is Rosalie Ingram. She is the niece of my grandmother. Her dad his name was Pi Ingram. I knew her when I was growing up, and I really miss her. She was a lot of fun, a lot older than me, but I really liked her. She was a mother and a grandmother. And me and my girlfriend Eva. Yes, these 2 spring chickens are mothers and grandmothers. And then below us is my daughter-in-law, Megan. She's about to be a mother for the 3rd time this fall with my grandbaby. She's the sweetest girl and very smart. And this is me. Yeah, you never know where your grandmother's going to end up. They might be on a fly fishing expedition in a state, far away from home. You never know. But I did. That was me on the fly fishing expedition. 2007. I wasn't a grandmother yet, but I was a mother. This is my mom. her when she was a little girl, her when she was in high school, and then after she retired, she was a volunteer at the hospital. And she made little dolls for the little kids to use to point out whenever they had been assaulted in certain areas on their body. And she was proud of that. Even made the newspaper doing it. They talked about how she made the dolls and was a part of the volunteers force there at the hospital. Well, I hope you enjoyed my introduction and my tribute to my female family members. I love them all. Didn't know most of them, but my respect and prayers go out to them. Be safe.